Welcome back to another episode of Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. Today we're sitting down with Kristen and we are going to chat a little bit about how to prepare families for a possible disruption happening. So do you want to start by maybe explaining what a disruption is?
Sure. A disruption is once you've been placed with a child and after placement, at any time from the time that you've signed placement paperwork until the revocation period is over, the birth parent, one of the birth parents or both, choose to change their mind and parent the child. So they would reach out to our agency and let us know, and then we would contact the family and let them know that, the placement is no longer moving forward.
And so every state has a certain time period.
Correct.
That a birth parent has to
Yeah,
change
and they vary a lot. Some, like in New Jersey, she can't sign until 72 hours, but once she does sign, it's irrevocable. And then and the other end of the spectrum is in Pennsylvania. She signs and it's the revocation period is 30 days. So it can be pretty stressful and anxious for the adoptive parents because essentially, even though you've been placed with a child legally, there's still a lot of risk because you can go home with the child, but the birth parents can still have the ability to change their mind.
So for you, what is helpful in counseling your adopting families on how to prepare for a possible disruption happening during that time frame?
Yeah, I think it's you want to, even though you're super excited, you've been placed for the child, you've been waiting for this time for so long, you've been through so much, the home study process takes a lot and it's very stressful, and then you go in the books and you don't know when you're picked and then you're finally picked. I think as excited as you are, you have to be cautious. You have to understand that although this is a placement that's occurring, this child is not legally yours yet. So I would essentially say until that revocation period is over, you're essentially babysitting or providing foster care for this child. And that can be really difficult for adoptive parents to understand because of course you're very excited and you want it to move forward, but legally we have these time periods that we have to wait. So I think to be prepared, I would be cautious of who you tell about the placement at this time because whoever you tell about this placement, and if a disruption happens, you have to untell. I would be cautious about telling your children that it's their brother or sister because it's not their brother or sister at this time, and it could be really difficult and hard to tell your child that this baby is not their brother or sister anymore if the birth parent changes their mind.
And can you share a little bit about the support that the agency gives to our families who are disrupted?
Yeah, so you always are offered support through your social worker. I would reach out if you are struggling because that's what we're there for. So we can provide you in-person individual counseling. We can connect you with a prospective adoptive parent who's been through the process before, so you can kind of get some tips from them, and maybe they've already been placed again, so you can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. And you can go on hold. If you're not ready to just jump right back into the adoption process because you were bonded with this child, you can go on hold for as long as you want, up to 6 months.
Okay. Yeah, and I think ultimately nobody ever wants to raise a child that was not meant to be a part of their family.
Correct.
And most adopting families that have suffered a disruption and then are replaced will always say, I had to go through that to get to my forever child.
Right. As hard as it is, as bonded as you are to the child, how would you feel if you were parenting a child that the birth parent didn't really want you to be parenting? So kind of taking a step back and looking at the situation and understanding what the birth parent kind of went through to make this decision, because ultimately it is a really hard decision for a birth parent to revocate as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for those helpful tips for prospective families.
Anytime.